So I have been lying to you guys for quite some time about the powertrain in the COPO truck. As it turns out, at least according to one person, it is not all-wheel drive. Now, I kind of scratch my head when I read these comments because I'm like, maybe they haven't seen the actual conversion process that we went through. I mean, yeah, technically it does have an NV149 all-wheel drive transfer case that was used in vehicles like the Silverado SS, the Cadillac Escalade, or the Yukon Denali. And yeah, it does have a center differential inside that transfer case that splits power roughly 60-40 between the rear wheels and the front. And unlike a four-wheel drive truck, we have no low range and no way to decouple power to the front prop shaft. So at least according to everything I've ever read, learned, studied, and have probably forgotten about trucks over the years, that's enough to call it all-wheel drive. But according to one eagle-eye viewer, it is not. So today, we're going to be removing our not all-wheel drive transfer case from the COPO truck. So all kidding and humor aside, the truck is absolutely all-wheel drive. I don't know what technicality would make you think that it's not, but yeah, it's all-wheel drive, no question about it. And in fact, we're going to be taking apart the transfer case in just a little bit, and we'll show you guys the inner workings and what makes the all-wheel drive magic happen. But we're not doing this just to be petty and to prove a point. We're actually doing this because it's part of the bigger scope of the project. We're installing a 4L80 transmission here in just a little bit, and unfortunately the stock NV149 will not mate up directly to the 4L80 without first changing this one part. This is a 32 spline input shaft specifically for the NV149, and these are custom made by a guy named Tim at Modern Muscle Salvage in Michigan. Now, he's the guy on the forums. He used to be called Time to Kill, and he's been making these input shafts for the NV149 for years. And in fact, we already used one on Project Red Tide that we built some years ago, the all-wheel drive, or not all-wheel drive, OBS Chevy, depending on which way you look at it. And they work great. It's basically just a way to convert the two parts to work together. Now, you do have to completely disassemble the transfer case to swap out the input shaft. And I figured while we're in there, I might as well give the case a refresh overall. So we got a few new things like an oil pump pickup screen. We got a new oil pump itself, a bigger back half to the oil pump to prevent it from rubbing through the case. We have a new transfer case chain. These probably take a lot more abuse than like in a two-wheel drive truck where the chain's hardly ever spinning. And then of course we've got a rebuild kit which comes with everything except for one bearing. The people were nice enough to write me a note. Anyway, there's one bearing that's apparently like on permanent forever back order, whatever. So we're just going to rebuild the case and get it ready to bolt up to our 4L80. Yep, it's got real caps on it. Doctor says I need to get more exercise. I don't think bench pressing transmissions is what he meant though. Oh, jeez. This isn't a transmission though, is it? That's not the right way to do it, but it works. I wanted to stop the teardown process real quick just to show you guys how the all-wheel drive system on the NV149 works, because I'm really intrigued with it and I think it's a really awesome design. It's made up of two separate parts, one the center differential and two the viscous coupler. And you can think of those two things sort of like the spider gears in an axle differential and the clutch pack in a limited slip. So this stack right here, this is the actual center differential, and it's based around a set of planetary gears. Now, normally in a transfer case, the planetary gears will provide a low range gear reduction, but not in this case. There's no way to select it. There's no way to shift into low range. It's just always there because it's the center differential. So this is the input shaft right here. This is how power gets fed in. It's driven by the gear on the center right there. And you can think of this as like the left side output and the right side output, but instead you have a rear output and a front output. And the front obviously has a sprocket on here and chain, and that goes to the front wheel. So just like an open differential and an axle, if I spin one of the outputs in one direction, the opposite output spins in the different direction. So basically, this is an open center differential right now, but in a performance application, open differentials kind of suck, and that's why GM installed the viscous coupler to act sort of like a clutch pack in a posi unit. So basically, you have the inside surface there that's splined, that goes onto the input shaft, and the outer surface that's splined right through there, that grabs onto this half. So basically, you're putting a clutch of sorts between these two halves, preventing them from just kind of slipping and spinning like crazy. So that's how GM did it. That is the all-wheel drive system and the viscous coupler. The bad thing about these is they are not serviceable. It's a welded sealed unit. It does use like a silicone fluid, I think. You can get replacements. They are a little bit expensive, but this one seems to be working just fine, so we're gonna kind of send this. But I do need to continue to tear things apart so I can install the new bearings. Alrighty, so everything is completely disassembled, 100% cleaned up and ready to go back together. Very first thing is the input shaft seal. Alright, next up we have our new 32 spline input shaft. The whole reason why we're doing this in the first place. It's got a brand new bearing on there already, so flip the case, get it stuck in. All right, front output shaft, this seal surface right there has got a little bit of rust from where it was exposed. Once again, a little Scotch-Brite action, clean that right up. Oh, by the way guys, got the motor yesterday, but you have to wait till the next upload to see it. All right, so that snap ring right there is actually the one that holds the bearing from pulling out of the case. Goes into the groove right there, but I also need to install a snap ring on there. I think that one, not that one, to hold the bearing on the output shaft. snap ring is a little tricky to get in just because you don't have a lot of space, but we'll get it. And walk it around. Output sprocket. Retaining ring. Viscous coupler. Intermediate shaft. The one bearing that apparently nobody makes. Sun gear and front output spline. Thrust washer. Planetary. Front input sprocket. New chain. Alrighty guys, weather report. As you can see by my handy dandy Amazon thermometer, almost 90 degrees in the shop, and finally we are getting something that we've needed so badly here in Utah. Like, this is apparently some kind of 10-year drought, but it is about to downpour. You can see all the clouds up there on the mountain. Yeah, so really glad we're getting some rain to cool things off. Trucks will get wet, but that's all right. As you can tell by the lawn, it definitely needs a little bit of water. Okay, so next up we have a new oil pump, but I'm not going to put this in just yet because I'm going to swap out the rear cover for this. It's from Merchant Automotive. A lot of times you'll see guys with Duramaxes use this. They call it like a pump rub kit. But believe it or not, the NV149 shares the same exact oil pump as like a 246 or 261 or a 263. And they have the same problem too, because these thin little lugs right here will actually wear through the back of the case. So you replace the rear half of the pump with this one. It has much thicker aluminum lugs. That way it won't wear through the case. So we'll swap this out real quick, then we'll build the rear section of the case. Next up, the output speed sensor has to go on, but this is like a really tight interference fit. I had a hard time getting this off. I had to use the press. I'm just gonna try to heat it up to expand it just a little bit. Hopefully it'll slip right on. If not, I do have this bearing race, which I can use as a spacer to press it on with the press. But hopefully a little bit of heat will do the job. Perfect. Output shaft bearing. So if you can see, perhaps right there, kind of past the tip of my finger, that little warm spot, that's where the oil pump kind of rattles back and forth and will eventually wear through the case. Luckily, we caught it in time, and that Merchant Automotive pump rub kit is going to fix that. All right, so this is like the trickiest part of the whole operation because there's a snap ring that sits inside the case here that has to engage in this once the whole half is together. Now I'm going to try to kind of lower this down and work the snap ring through here. And if I can't get it, I'll just kind of take the rear half of the planetary, put it in here first. But I'm hoping I can do this. Got it. So with that, we have ourselves a completely reassembled NV149 transfer case. But the million-dollar question is this actually an all-wheel drive unit? Well, I've already given you my answer on that, and we know what it is, but here's the thing. There is no way to switch to low range, there's no mechanical or electronic actuator, and there's no way to disengage power to the front output. Basically, when you turn the input shaft, the front output shaft, and the rear output shaft are both going to be spinning at the same exact time. And we already explained the function of the viscous coupler and how it splits power front to rear. So this thing is ready to go. Basically, the whole reason we took it apart was to install this 32 spline input shaft to mate it up to the 4L80 that's hiding out under the workbench there. But of course, the plus now is we rebuilt it. It's got a brand new chain, just all new bearings and seals. Basically, it's ready to rock and roll. The only seal I was unable to install was on the front output because this has a double, I don't know if they call it, but like a double ring. Basically, there's a metal ring on here on the inside that presses onto the output shaft itself, and a metal ring on the outside that gets pressed into the case. And they're two separate pieces. The seal actually, try to do this one with hand, the seal kind of, I can't do it with, there we go. As you can see, the inside turns independently from the outside. You need a special tool to install this and set the correct depth. And I bought one from Merchant Automotive. It's not here just yet. And then you can do that with the transfer case fully assembled. And then I also need to buy a new seal for the rear output because the one that I had, I actually used when I put this together last time. So I'll just get another rear seal, put that in, and then we are ready to go. So in the next video, I'm actually not going to get this installed quite yet because I want to show you guys the parts that we've been waiting on since October. They just showed up yesterday. It's everything that we need for our 547 race motor for the ugly truck, and I'm really excited to show you because we actually changed plans several times and we have ourselves something that is just downright awesome. So I can't wait to show you that. Afterwards, I am going to slam out the all-wheel drive conversion or the 4L80 swap on the COPO truck, because it is now, let's see, June 29th today. And race week starts like September 5th or 4th or something like that. Basically, I have 2 months to get the new motor put together for the ugly truck. And I also, because now I have this truck sort of disabled in the shop, I do want to get the 4L80 swap done, which means drive shafts made and all that. But anyway, yeah, next time you get to see the race motor. The time after that, we're going to start the ADE swap. Really excited about the parts that just showed up, guys. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, drop a comment, click the like button. All that stuff helps the channel grow.
Dad, say hi to the camera.
Hey camera, how are you?
Not my camera, to the people watching.
Oh, hey people watching. I didn't see you there, I just saw a camera. For more dad jokes, subscribe to my channel.